In school, war often came in the form of clean timelines and clear battles.
Nobody will be allowed to put any vehicle on that road without my permission.
Heroes were outlined in textbooks, the good guys were easy to spot, and the chaos of real conflict was reduced to bullet points and black and white photos.
My fight is with the bloody British Empire, but I'll fight it on my own 2 feet.
But the 1970s produced a different kind of war movie. Films made by people still processing Vietnam, Watergate, and the slow collapse of certainty. These movies didn't promise glory or moral clarity. They offered doubt. They asked uncomfortable questions. And they captured something schools rarely do: the human cost of believing in a mission that doesn't believe in you. This is a list of 5 films that weren't shown in classrooms, not because they lacked importance, but because they refused to offer easy answers. The Eagle Has Landed, 1976. John Sturges' adaptation of Jack Higgins' novel tells the story of a fictional German plot to kidnap Winston Churchill. But the film is less interested in Churchill than in the strange human faces of war. Michael Caine plays a German officer posing as a Polish paratrooper, embedded in a quiet English village. The suspense builds slowly, with a mood closer to espionage than action. The realism is enhanced by real-world locations. The church used in the film sits directly across from the old watermill featured on Black Sabbath's first album cover. In one scene, a stuntman plays both the German soldier and the American he kills, an accidental metaphor for how blurred the lines of allegiance can become.
This part you're playing, Michael, of Steiner, Colonel Steiner, is it a different sort of part for you?
Well, yes, in a way. I've only played a German once before, which is in a picture called The Last Valley. But this is that was a very kind of Starkers kind of German. This is a more, it's kind of a more humane look at people.
The framing device, structured like a true story with fake historical bookends, convinced many viewers it was real. And maybe it was in spirit. The IRA-linked character Liam Devlin draws from actual history, and the film's haunting final scene, an organ playing during a firefight in a church, echoes another true story from an assassination attempt on Reinhard Heydrich. Fiction or not, it captures something too messy for textbooks. Iron Cross, The Road to Normandy. Tino Struckman's Iron Cross wasn't made to impress critics. It was made to explore a question most war films avoid. What if you told the story from the German side, not to excuse them, but to understand them? Struckman, a military historian, wanted to show the war from the ground through the eyes of soldiers who weren't part of the Nazi elite, but just trying to survive. The result is uneven. The acting is wooden, the sound design is off, and the equipment looks almost too clean to be believable. But beneath the surface is a rare attempt to humanize the other side, not by denying history, but by refusing to reduce it to villains and slogans. The film shifts between the Eastern and Western fronts, trying to suggest that war breaks everyone it touches, regardless of uniform. It didn't land well. Its IMDb rating remains painfully low, and most people who watched it walked away unimpressed. But it attempted something most war films won't, to show that morality in war is often shaped by perspective, and that understanding isn't the same as approval. Too Late the Hero, 1970. Robert Aldrich's war films rarely end with parades, and Too Late the Hero is no exception. Set during WWII in the Pacific, the film uses that backdrop to deliver a barely disguised critique of the Vietnam War, which was still raging when it was released. Michael Caine plays a weary British officer assigned to work with American soldiers on a suicide mission. The cast includes men who clearly don't want to be there, who talk back, disobey, and question every order. It's a portrayal of the military that's more 1970 than 1945. The film came out just 2 weeks after the Kent State shootings, and its anti-establishment tone hit at a volatile time. Some characters are labeled cowards, others are idealists, none are saints. It offers no redemption arcs, just long walks through jungle terrain and the creeping sense that everyone's being used. Critics compared it to The Dirty Dozen, but argued it lacked the same moral payoff. And that may have been the point. This wasn't a story about bad men becoming good. It was about the illusion of purpose in a war most of its characters didn't believe in. The Inglorious Bastards, 1978. Before Tarantino turned the title into a grindhouse remix, The Inglorious Bastards was already pushing boundaries. Enzo Castellari's film tells the story of American military prisoners turned commandos, sent on a suicide mission in Nazi territory. It wasn't officially a remake of The Dirty Dozen, but the influence is obvious. What made it stand out was how far it leaned into chaos. The violence is over the top, the characters are often cartoonish, and the tone swerves between comedy and brutality without warning. In Germany, marketing materials had to censor swastikas, even decades after the war, a reminder that these symbols still had the power to disturb. At the time, critics saw the film as lowbrow exploitation, but over the years it built a cult following for its unapologetic attitude. Its characters are criminals, deserters, and accidental heroes. The mission barely matters. What matters is the mood, cynical, messy, and deeply suspicious of authority. It's a war movie where everyone is just trying to make it to the credits. A Bridge Too Far, 1977. This is what a war epic looks like when it doesn't end in victory. Richard Attenborough's A Bridge Too Far is a large-scale retelling of Operation Market Garden, an Allied mission that failed disastrously in the Netherlands. The film doesn't hide the failure. If anything, it turns it into the main character. British officers dismiss intelligence warnings. American paratroopers are dropped too far from their targets. Commanders argue while men die on bridges and in fields they were never supposed to reach. The cast is massive. Sean Connery, Gene Hackman, Michael Caine, Robert Redford. But the real drama is in the logistics. How good plans unravel under pressure. How ambition blinds. The film doesn't blame the Germans. It blames Allied leadership, especially British generals like General Browning, portrayed here as overconfident and out of touch. Some scenes were invented for dramatic effect, including British soldiers stopping for tea under fire. But they serve a point. The film isn't interested in clean resolutions. It's interested in how disasters happen and who gets left behind when they do. These films didn't fit into classrooms because they didn't reinforce the right lessons. They weren't clean. They weren't heroic. They questioned what war is for, who pays the price, and why we keep telling ourselves it's ever worth it. They didn't aim to inspire, they aimed to remember. And in doing so, they told stories more honest than any textbook ever could.